New player of the game, any tips on just improving in general? Throwing yourself into the deep end, but usually get steamrolled by 1550 with most nations you play, plus you have trouble with the estates. Oh boy. This game is so context-specific that trying to give any advice is like telling you to throw darts at a dartboard and saying don't miss. It's really not that easy to give a good explanation of things, especially when I don't know how you're getting steamrolled specifically. I don't know if your tech is bad, if your military is bad, if your autonomy is high, if your trade is bad, if your allies are bad. I don't really know each of these things on an individual basis per game. When it comes to the estates, there are some specific things. The new estates, I'm assuming you're just playing the game, so unfortunately now you have new things to learn with the estates because of today's update. Because estates are now 6 privilege slots instead of 4. What this means is that you have to balance everything yourself, which kind of sucks. What I would recommend for the burghers is that usually you're gonna take land of commerce, patronage of the arts, private trade fleets, or if you can't have that, then free enterprise. And if you need money, then take money from the burghers first. These loans are 1% interest, so they're better. With the other estates, take supremacy over the crown or whatever it is for your government type, because that's just really based. It's one privilege that gives basically 30 loyalty, if you want to think of it like that. And then, you'll also want to take the primacy of the nobility and religious state for more points. You almost always, I say almost, because, for instance, in this run, we didn't want to take those privileges until after a few missions, but most of the time you'll want to take those. You'll seize the land, which will end up giving you 5%. Also, I should have seized this land, so that's awkward. But what you want to do is not take the statutory rights, because that gives you autonomy, and autonomy is cringe. You want to basically conquer, because when you take land, you gain crown land based on the influence of your estates. So our clergy has a lot of influence, so when we take land, they're actually going to gain crown land, a decent amount. You don't want your estates to be too high in influence, because if you want to conquer in order to gain crown land, then it's just not going to work out as well. You should be seizing land as frequently as possible. I didn't because I'm dumb, but you want to seize land as frequently as possible, so you can try to get yourself back up to 30%, and that should sort of be estates for you. And for general improvement, you should probably watch someone who is not me. Unless you're watching one of my streams, because, at least those aren't as bad. But my videos are not very beginner-friendly, because I don't explain things, and I really just can't be bothered to. I think it makes the content slower and more boring, so I don't really explain as much. Go and watch Chewy Shoot if you want to learn how to play the game. Go watch his Let's Plays. Usually have this issue: get a big military, get into some insane debt, then get rid of a portion of the military to settle the debt. Then you get ruled. Okay, yeah. Basically, that is kind of an issue. Yeah. Okay. So I think you've fallen into the force limit trap, and that is when a new player sees that they can have 100 men, because their force limit is 100. So they're like, ah, yes, I need 100 regiments. But you don't. You do not need that. What you need is a reasonable number of men for whatever you plan to do next, and allies. Allies are really important, because they're troops that you're not paying for, that are also adding to your deterrence. So, for instance, let's pretend I wasn't in the HRE, right? I'm allied to Poland and Denmark. If I didn't plan to attack the Livonians, which I do, that's why I have 8,000 men, then I could have literally 0 men. That is until, of course, I want to take land back. I could just have nothing, because these guys, I know that they're strong enough, and they will probably come to my aid if I get attacked by anybody. To start off with, if you're being attacked by larger countries, it usually means your allies are garbage. and you should be getting better allies. And forces should be mostly infantry, true. Mostly infantry, if you can afford it, cavalry, and then if you can even afford it afterwards, then artillery. Yeah, it shouldn't just be 80% infantry. It should be more than 80% infantry. If you're talking about getting rolled in like, what, 1550 did you say? Yeah, if you're getting rolled by 1550, would that even be 80%? I guess it would be 80%, wouldn't it? A little bit less than 80%. Your combat width is going to be, what, by 1550? Like 27? Something like that? So what's that, 23 infantry, 4 cavalry? Yeah, you should never have more than like 4 cavalry unless you have cavalry combat ability. In which case, it's acceptable. When you first get artillery, it's best to have 1 artillery, because they fight like garbage, but they do give you a bonus on forts. And then the second level of artillery, the culverins and pedreros, or whatever they're called, you can get like 4 or maybe 6 in an army, and then, you know, you should expand out your back row as artillery becomes better. By the end of the game, you usually have like a full back row of artillery. But artillery is kind of weird these days. They kind of retreat all at once. If you're fighting like an actually long battle, then your artillery is just going to leave.